Welcome back to the Foxfire Dispatch. If episode 7 was about structure and strategy, today's episode is more about imagination. Rebekah Whilden is back, not as a guest interviewee, but as a co-host, and we're talking Wishlist for 2026, the political stakes ahead for North Carolina, and also Survivor seasons 49 and 50. Because democracy is serious, and also sometimes a little reality TV is how we survive it. Hey again, Rebekah.
So excited.
So let's start with those wish lists for the next year. We're recording on December 30th, and obviously the new year is right around the corner. So I'm hoping this will be like a discussion of what we hope could happen for, a cautiously optimistic, realistic kind of 2026. So with that in mind, what do you want 2026 to represent for North Carolina politically? What are you hoping for?
I think a rebirth of what freedom means. And I say that in the sense of like, what could like a freedom rooted in progressive vision kind of look like? Not just the absence of constraints, but the presence of opportunity and agency for folks. So like tax fairness, healthcare, and economic freedom, but then also, like fair maps and fair representation. And I think that we need to get politics back to where it's not just a chessboard. And it's actually like about for the people, by the people. And that's what I'm hoping happens. But what about you, though?
I mean, I think that like access to opportunity is really well put, and that like people need access to not just the opportunity for affordable health care, but jobs where they live without upending their family and incurring a 4-figure cost to move, or education that allows people to put their kids in the system that's right for them, again, without doing something shady or like physically moving your lives for the purpose of that free, fair, equal education that you're supposed to be able to get anywhere in North Carolina. I would love for 2026 to be the year that people stop saying North Carolina is a purple state and start saying North Carolina is turning blue, and like has been for quite some time. I mean, I think about folks who still today will tell me Granville is red, as a rural county. And I'm like, listen, we got more Democrats than independents, more independents than Republicans. The 3 mayors in 3 of my 5 biggest not my 5 biggest, I got 5 municipalities in this whole dang county, and 3 of them are democratically controlled. And there's commissions, and 2 of them, the 2 biggest, have Democratic. Nope, I said that backwards. 3 of them have Democratic mayors, and the 2 biggest have Democratic commissions. And our county commission is under Democratic control. So I feel like when I look at this county, what I see is a lot of Democratic governance. And now certainly we could do better in some areas, but like what I'm not seeing is a red wave or like a Catawba County or an Iredale kind of redness, And so I'd love to see us talking more about North Carolina as that changing more blue purple than red purple. And I think it's going to take Roy Cooper in the Senate and Anita Earls winning re-election, not to mention winning up and down the ballot to make that come to pass.
Yeah. And I think, number one, you're making me think that I need to do one of like the Carolina Forward Carolina Coffees in Granville. And I should add that to my list. The next one I was going to try to do in Wilson, which is in Goldsboro area, which is where my mom grew up. But now I'm thinking like Granville might be fun. But no, I think you're right. I think 2026 is going to be a year of either reckoning for Democratic Party of like, whoo, we had like the momentum and then we squashed it, which personally I hope doesn't happen. Or it's going to be like, what we're doing by doing a lot of storytelling and being on social media more and actually investing in not always the these certain ways is actually working, and we need to really dig in. Um, so I'm excited for 2026. I'm also, like, cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, cautiously
Cautious.
optimistic, and even that feels scary, but, like, also, it's better than I maintain it's, like, better than a feeling of pessimism, and that also, maybe woo-woo, but, like, we're pulling reality into existence with what we're so, like, better to be cautiously optimistic than to be an Eeyore about things, I think.
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly.
Um,
Do you wanna talk boy?
yes, yes, I absolutely wanna talk Roy, uh although we got a crowded Democratic race and a crowded Republican race over here for Senate in North Carolina. Obviously, but I will say that I don't think there's anybody serious except for Roy on the field. What are you thinking about that race and how we hope that race will go? I know our group chat has been a Twitter about the communications with this wonderful campaign.
Um, I think voters are gonna find out a lot about Michael Whatley, and there's a there are, like, 2 big issues that he's gonna have to face. His history of cheating to win, his failure as Donald Trump's fall guy for Helene Recovery in West North Carolina. So, like, and the thing that I don't think people remember, I do, because, like, it was such a devastating blow to, like, my mom and dad, who were very politically involved back in the day, is that Whatley was on George W. Bush's Florida recount team and supported the 2020 election conspiracy theories, specifically saying that Trump wasn't responsible for the January 6th attack. And he's the kind of, like, Republican Party insider who is going to turn a blind eye to cheating to win an election. But as someone who grew up in Western North Carolina, and I think that both Republican primary voters and general election voters in Western North Carolina are going to be troubled by Whatley's tenure as the Trump appointed recovery czar after the hurricane, because he went months without even stepping foot in West North Carolina. But yet, like, you're in charge of this massive cleanup, and our attorney general is having to sue the federal government to get money. And so I know I didn't say anything about Roy on this, but I feel like the first episode that I'm in gives some pointers, but I think, like, really focusing in on Whatley is, like, and kind of going for it.
Mhm.
Much, much like the Democratic Party did in the governor's race in 2024.
Mhm.
I think that's, like,
Okay.
continuing that, going for it.
Okay. Yeah, and, like, let's also be clear about, like, the idea of Watley visiting Western North Carolina in the Helene aftermath. This is decidedly not like our stupid fucking president taking his giant entourage into a decimated region, and gumming up the works to take a visit. This is like, "Oh, it was your job to help fix things, like, you should be boots on the ground there. You're not at the level that the president is or the governor in terms of, like, travel and entourage and security." There's literally no reason for him not to be regularly present as the region started its rebuilding process.
Yeah, and I think that is something that Roy is capitalizing on, is like, hey, like, more and more you're seeing, like, videos and content and emails around Hurricane Helene and about his love of Western North Carolina. And so I think that Roy, if Roy wins the Democratic primary, he's going to continue, and Whatley is the Republican nominee. Roy is gonna continue that
Mm,
of, like, "Hey, Helene happened. Helene happened. I love Western North Carolina. Like, you'll see me here all the
mm,
time." Um, but I just think, like, that is gonna be kind of the big thing because almost every single week we're seeing another story about Helene come out, about funding not happening or the Jeff Jackson having to sue or like what have you. And like people are still paying attention and we're a year after
Mhm.
and we're still seeing it.
Yeah, and we're gonna continue to see it for a couple of years. Like, we know there are other regions of the state that still have not recovered from previous years of natural disasters, and it's just those those things take time and infrastructure and money and, um yeah, anyway, so hoping to see Watley's feet held to the fire, and rightly so about that. So we will definitely see how these primaries are shaping up in just a couple of months. Another huge race coming up for 2026 for us, Anita Earls, Supreme Court Justice Anita Earls running for reelection. That race obviously matters enormously for a North Carolina Supreme Court that has only 2 Democratic justices, of which she is one. Um, so let's talk a little bit about what's at stake if people don't pay attention to this race, which historically we're pretty bad about paying attention to judicial races in North Carolina as left-leaning folks.
Yes. Shout out to Bull City Anna on Instagram and Threads. Go follow her. She talks a lot about how important Anita Earl's race is. And she actually made a great post that I'll try to describe it, but like just go find it. But it's like a road and how we need to win this race so then we can have
Mhm.
XYZ and XYZ and XYZ. Um, Go follow Bull City Anna. Anyways, I think what we're gonna see is more attempts from Republicans to steal elections, just like last year's Supreme Court case. They've made it clear that with their takeover of the state board of elections, their indifference to Mark Harris's criminality and the course of their endorsement of Donald Trump's actions on January 6th. They're going to try to steal. Right now, Phil Berger Jr., the son of the most powerful Republican in the state, doesn't recuse himself when his dad's cases appear before the court. It's a mind-blowing level of corruption. If we lose Anita Earls, we lose a counterbalance to one of the most corrupt Supreme Court majorities in any state in American history. And so I know, like, I used to run the planning commission in Mecklenburg County. If I even, and one of my husband's cousins is a developer, anytime that I am hearing something that he is doing and I'm having to vote on it, or he even comes to talk to the planning commission, I have to disclose that.
Like, "Hey, this is
So,
my
like, as a
cousin,"
little,
and,
like,
like yeah.
yeah. But then Phil Berger Jr. doesn't have to? Are you serious?
About a
Like,
closer
and
family
even, like,
relationship to yeah, absolutely.
like, bro, come on, come on. But I know you're also, like, a huge Bull City Anna fan, but what do you think is, like, the most at stake for this? That either, like, Anna has brought up or, like, you've really been thinking about kinda leading into this massive election?
I mean, I am also seeing Anita Earl's race as a stepping stone on that road to build back power towards 2030. And so,
Yeah.
if we do not hold this Democratic seat on the Supreme Court, then we are that much further back from potentially gaining ground the next time some of those seats are up for election. And that will make it that much harder, if not impossible, for fair maps to be redrawn. When we get to 2030, and we have a new census and are able to draw new maps, like the hope would be that with Anita Earl's win and other wins that we might have on the Court of Appeals this year, also very important races, Toby Hansen, John Arrowwood, the Christine and James primary. that with those races, we would begin to build some judicial power so that terrible maps might be overturned or good maps might be upheld, depending on however the legislature is shaken out in 2030. And ultimately, that to me is like a forecast for what the 2030 to 2040 decade is going to look like in North Carolina.
Well, let's be honest with ourselves. I think if we don't take a house in the legislature, so either House or Senate, we are looking at another redraw in 2028 or 2027, 2028. And so, like, that might go to the state Supreme Court. And so, like, again, that is where Anita Earl's reelection comes into play. Because this state legislature just loves to draw maps. It's like that's what they like dream about. Like, instead of counting sheep at night, they're like, how can we make this more racially? That's what I think they do.
I would like some sort of reform to state legislatures that is like, if, like in the North Carolina legislature, you have a purpose that is like pass a budget. If you cannot get that done by its deadline, you don't get to do anything else but come to work 5 days a week and try to get that done. Like, that makes sense to me. Like, if I didn't get my very important work project done, I would not go off and do side quest number 72. Like,
Have you seen Vernetta Alston's video that she made of like she
the
brought
one
her
with her
son
kid.
to work?
Yeah. That's so
Yes.
cute.
That is, I saw that and I was like, this is the most adorable thing. And then I started seeing all of these people that like don't post about politics, like sharing it. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. And also like her son's adorable. Um, but I was like, can we have him like number one, did he ever get his like pizza that he was asking for? But then number two, like, can he just make one like every week? Because I feel like that might push people. Well, actually, it might make us not get a budget because people be like, we need more of these videos. But like the videos are so good that I'm like, can everyone's kids get involved, please?
Another great
It's so
example
cute.
of that, like that kind of dog content that we were talking about earlier, where it is like giving us something cute, some sweets with our vegetables, like as we watch our video content.
Yes. Give me something fun. Ugh. I just want more dogs. That's what I want.
More dogs, more cute children looking under flowers saying, "Have you seen the budget?" What do you think that voters should maybe understand better about these judicial races?
I think the easy thing to say is like the further down the ballot you go, the more of an impact you have on your daily life, which includes judges. And at one point in my life, I wanted to be a high school civics teacher. And I think that might be my retirement job just because I love American history. I love like learning about it and, but you learn about, the separation of powers and checks and balances, and you rely on three co-equal branches of government. And in North Carolina, the legislature has thrown that balance out of whack.
Mhm.
And we need both the courts and the Council of State to balance that kind of overreach.
Mhm.
And so that's why judicial races are so incredibly important, both locally, but also on a statewide level as well. So
Yeah.
go all the way down, all the way through your ballot, out the whole way.
From even start on the other side and work your way up to the first side. If you got it two-sided, start at the bottom and work your way up. That was a tip that I heard this year that I really liked. I also feel like I am hopeful for this year that Granville will go for the judges. We don't have a history of going for the Democratic judges when you look at the past 10 years of election results. And I think it would be a good bellwether for the state if we were able to turn out for that. It's part of the reason I already had Anita Earls come visit us twice this year and have put an ask out for her to please maybe come for precinct organizing or county convention as our very special guest this year or for 2026. Um, but I am really hopeful that, that these judges continue to campaign everywhere and that people feel their presence and feel how important it is that we show up for them. I'm also kind of hopeful that like the primary for one of the Court of Appeal seats will keep it in people's minds for November, that is part of what we are voting for and coming out for.
I also, this may be unpopular in like some circles. I think number one, as long as primaries don't get dirty, that is like the little like star at the end of this is like, I think primaries are really healthy for both parties. I
Mhm.
think it kind of tells you what direction the electorate is, or how the electorate is feeling about the issues that XYZ candidate brings up or doesn't bring up, or,
Mhm.
And so I think it's incredibly healthy for us to have um, primaries, again, as long as they don't get dirty,
Mhm.
because I think that we can tear ourselves down. And you've seen it happen on like both sides of the aisle. Like, so and so doesn't like the candidate that is probably going to win. And so they release all of his background on them.
Or make
And
shit
then
up
it's
like with
just,
Zoran Mamdani and Cuomo and just AI a bunch of
yes,
shit. Like,
yeah. And I'm just like, oh, why? It,
mhm. Mhm.
like, that the people that are also voting for you then also need to go vote for this person in order for your side to still win. Like, don't be mean. Sorry. Like, yes, talk about the issues. Do it. You can point out how your belief differs from that other person, but don't get ugly.
Yeah,
I mean, unless you want to be petty, which like sometimes is okay.
very
But
select
be yeah,
circumstances.
yeah.
I mean,
I'm petty as hell. But like there are times for it and there are times to not do it. So,
mhm.
you know,
I mean, I'm on board with
just
that.
saying.
I feel like that's a very nuanced take that I am like mostly on board with, and that like as a principle, I agree that like primaries are good for us. And then there's like a sliver of me, the very tired volunteer sliver, and it's like,
Yes.
dear fucking God, you guys, we're working so hard. Can't you tell how hard we're working to get great candidates for you? And if we could just not fight for 3 months and spend some money, we could really get our shit together. And that's how I
Yes.
feel
And I
about
think
that.
that this yeah. And I think that that also goes back to like infrastructure within like parties
Mhm.
of like the right Project 2025 did not just show up out of nowhere. It was put together for years, even before 2016. It was starting to be put together. And then when it all came together, they were just like, hey, Project 2025. Like, and it is because what the right does is that they move people that work on, not everywhere, but some, on political campaigns into like think tanks. And then they give them a job for a year and a half, and then they move them onto a political campaign. And so, like, they constantly have a job and they're not having to like
To scramble
worry
their
about.
lives as they file unemployment with their spotty work histories. And yeah, what a fucking concept for our organizers.
Right. Right. And so in the left, I think that there are some states that do kind of have that sort of thing. And I think there have been aspirations in North Carolina to
Mhm.
have that sort of thing. And there might be, it's just not talked about, which is like also understandable. Um, but I think that there kind of needs to be that because we have some amazing folks that have run amazing campaigns, but then they leave and go to Virginia, or they
Mhm.
leave and go to Texas, or they leave and they go to New York. And you're like, damn, it would have been nice to keep them. to run like Anita Earl's race or so-and-so's race. You know, like that would have been nice.
It would have been nice if they didn't have 3 to 9 months of unemployment in between the jobs available to them, you know? It makes it very hard to build up an organizer class of Democrats, of working families, parties, people, if you don't get people onto a pipeline of gainful employment in the space.
And then those people can then become the candidates.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I feel like that's part of the thing that we're like missing out on of like, you know, we were just talking about primaries and then candidate recruitment. And so it's kind of like, we can all do a better job of candidate recruitment. Can do a better job of candidate recruitment. And I feel like a lot of groups work on it and there's not a one size fits all. But I feel like it's something that going into next year and going in 2026, we need to already be thinking about who's going to run at the municipal level. Who's going to be running for reelection. We need assurances right now that you're going to run for mayor again. We need assurances right now that you're going to run for town council. Which, yes, things change. Shit happens. But like going ahead and thinking about that so then we can recruit great people.
As opposed to
then run
finding out
those
in the middle of filing that your county commissioner is not up for running for another term.
Yep. Which happened quite a few times.
Yep.
Like 2 months ago.
Yep.
Or a month ago.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Within the last few weeks.
I'd be on a call and I'd be like, wait, what? They're not doing it? Hold on. Who do I know that lives there? Not many people. Hold on. Ugh. It's exhausting.
It is. It is tiring and constant work, but I also agree with you that like the time for getting some of these assurances and getting our ducks in a row is looking more like a couple months out, 6 months out from filing than it is a couple weeks, you know. Like, okay, we've gotten through this election, so now it's time to think about the filing period that's next month. Not as conducive to like building a winning pitch. What is on your wish list for the kind of leadership that we deserve as North Carolinians, like in Congress and the state legislature, just to pivot from the elected offices we've been talking about a little bit?
Oh God. I've had too many dinner table conversations about this actually. With my husband and I worked on state legislative races and he spent quite a number of years working for the federal government for a congresswoman. And I think Congress is easier to talk about because Democrats can take back the House this cycle. And Roy Cooper is the best candidate that North Carolina could have at this moment, in my personal opinion. And next year, there's a real chance North Carolina and Congress will hold congressional gavels as committees and subcommittee chairs. So it will be important for them to use those leadership positions effectively. For example, if Alma Adams is chair of the House Agricultural Committee, she will play a major role in the state's #1 industry. And then in the state legislature, you're looking at people that are kind of going back to like what we were talking about previously about like, you know, like, can we agree on these values? And then where are we both willing to compromise to achieve housing, to achieve, you know, less vouchers, to achieve X, Y, Z that both parties want to work on. We just don't know how to do it. Maybe like a budget, for example. And so I think it's just kind of like, can we get value alignment for the state legislative caucuses and then see where that overlaps to actually get things done that voters want. Because the state legislature does not reflect the voters at the current moment, or does not reflect gerrymandering is a thing, as we've talked about, but the will of the people is not being represented right now.
Yeah. Yeah. In the people's house. Or we would not have like bills about how we can bring back firing squads and whatnot.
It's ridiculous.
Uh,
Absolutely. And like I live in Mecklenburg County, so like there were parts of that I were like, yay, we do need more assistant district attorneys. And like, and then I saw that part and I was like, oh, let's not do that. Come on. That's my bill.
yeah.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
But also like, dang,
Yeah. Yeah.
total missed opportunity.
If you could wave your wand and fix a structural issue in North Carolina politics, what would it be and why? Or like any North Carolina politics issue, if you could just fix it, what would it be?
Oh, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, infrastructure.
Mhm.
We're not good at it. I think I would say movement building, not instant gratification.
Mhm.
When I say instant gratification, I mean like winning an election, but like we have to slowly do it. I think it's just the infrastructure, very similar to what I was saying earlier. And like I could go on for like years, honestly, probably about that. But I think that that's the one thing that I'm like, I wish I was a fairy godmother. And instead I'm like an aunt with lots of nephews and godkids. And I have not been elevated to fairy godmother.
Well, I mean, I feel like
But what about you? What is like the thing for you?
um yeah, obviously like there are so many directions, like worthwhile directions to go with this. I think mine goes back to something we were just talking about, like with that stupid criminal reform bill is I want single issue bills and up and down votes. Like I'm so fucking sick of omnibus shit from our legislator, from Congress. Like, you want to talk about more district attorneys? Cool, awesome. Let's put it to a vote. You want to talk about firing squads or medical marijuana? Cool, awesome. Let's put it to a single vote. Like, yeah, I just think that should be possible and reasonable.
Well, yeah, but that seems too easy for people, you know? But I also think it's like that, and there's so much damn money in politics that basically there's so many special interests within North Carolina that, like the Duke Energy bill
Mhm.
that happened. I think it was Bill 266. I think I could be misremembering the number, but it had like all of these things. And it was literally just like written by Duke Energy. And you're just like, no, what? Like, you're about to start charging people more and you're asking for us to cut you some slack on some of this stuff? Oh, I don't know. I think it's just like the stupidity of some of these bills
Mhm.
is just mind-boggling to me.
Mhm.
But whatever, it's fine. It's not fine, but like,
Like, yeah, these are the common sense. Like, there is a common sense solution to like remedying this. Is like cool, but everything comes down the pipe by itself, and it stands on its own or it dies on its own, and people have to defend their fucking votes. But like, don't give me omnibus shit that like somebody gets to say like, well, I was voting for the more district attorneys because I believe people shouldn't have to wait in jail for months, which is totally reasonable. But if that also means you voted for firing squads and like speeding up the death penalty, like that's bad. I think.
yeah,
Um
yeah, yeah. And the death penalty is actually something that like I used to struggle with a lot
uh-huh.
as like it was how I don't know if this is how you were kind of brought into the movement or not, but like I started, when I really started to like get really involved and like learn the issues and XYZ, the death penalty, having grown up in like the Methodist church and going to church every Sunday and going to youth group and all this sort of stuff. Growing up in my Methodist church, at least, we weren't literal believers in the word of the Bible. Like if someone said a bush was on fire, it wasn't actually on fire, if that
Yeah,
makes sense. But like I always heard the term like an eye for an eye. And so that's like the death penalty. That was like the one thing that I was like, I'm really struggling with this. And then when I was in my, I think like early 20s, I read 2 books about the Innocence. One was about the Innocence Project, and then another one, I forget the name of it, ended up becoming a movie with Michael B. Johnson that was really good. Also, he is just fine. But it really, like, reading both of those books, I was like, damn, I did not realize how, like, racially charged the death penalty is. Like, you hear it is, but then when you're reading
the statistics of how many people improperly wrongly convicted, overturned later. Yeah. People tried as teenagers, as adults, along the lines of race over and over again here in the South. People with developmental disabilities being tried, as if fully in command of their faculty. Yeah, just like a lot of. I also grew up in Methodist church, but like not political. My parents were not political or politically active, but like the just like fundamentally to me, between the things we know about like the Innocence Project and like my deep belief that if this government and this country are so good and so great, like surely we have a better way than killing the people who like than meeting force with equal opposing force. Like surely there is something that is better than that. And I also worked in admin at UCLA Law, which is a really progressive law school, so there was lots of recidivism discussion and like restorative justice and things like that. So that definitely has influenced my thinking on that a little bit too.
Look at us changing our minds about things. You're amazing.
It certainly can be done. We are proof of it. Okay, I think we have talked about that. Probably, maybe as much as we want to. Is there anything else like for the new year that is top of mind for you, whether it's a wish or a concern, before we dive into our favorite and possibly one of the greatest reality TV shows of all time, Survivor?
I do want to ask you in like one sentence is like, what do you want to see less of, like movement level for 2026? I don't want to say like for all time, but like for 2026, what do you want to see less of?
For 2026, just 2026. Do it this year. We can go back to normal next year. Less white men talking. More of anybody else talking and less of white men. This is not a question. This is a comment.
Yeah. And I think, yes, I'm just going to say yes.
That's what
and to be clear, I am married to a white
To be
man.
clear, we both love
And
them dearly. There's some good ones. We are
Yes.
not talking about you. If you think you're one of the good ones, this is not about you. If you are feeling any type of offended, might I just suggest turn the dial down 10% for 1 year and see what happens.
Okay, are we going to do Survivor?
Yep. My mom used to be like, you got one mouth and 2 ears, and why do you think that is?
I'm writing that down. Hold on. Who said that? Your grandma?
My mother?
Oh my god. I'm gonna start using that. I'm trying to write down like a bunch of like kind of southern idioms that I can just like randomly pull out for my nephews. of just, and they'll be like, "What are you talking about?"
Is that dog don't
Like,
hunt
I'm
in there yet?
Mhm. You just hit the nail on the head. My dad says that all the time. And I'm just like, or my dad used to play the game of heads you win, tails wait,
Heads I win.
heads I win, tails you lose.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, they would totally play with him. And then I think after like a year of him like randomly doing that to me, it like finally caught on of like, oh, you just always win. I was a child, to be clear. I was under double digits. There we go.
Our dads sound like they would get along. Um, but so Survivor, just to like hard transition, but I watch Survivor with my family. Like that's a even if we're not together, it's like a thing we watch and talk about and like have watched since I was in high school. So like long time at this point. Um, Survivor 49 just ended a couple of weeks ago. Um, I had some thoughts. What are your high level reactions to the finale episodes?
So I'm gonna say this off the bat, Savannah is a challenge beast. Um, I was absolutely thrilled that there were 3 women in the final 3. And I know that we'll get into season 50, but the people that are on season 50, I'm like, "Oh, that's a decision." Um, and, like, again, 3 women in the final 3, historic, iconic, no notes. But I also, like, with Savannah, I'm like, is production allowed to, like, shoot her with, like, a Nerf gun or something to, like, stop her from winning immunity again? I was like, Share it. Don't share it a little bit." But, it wasn't the most exciting season. It was what I needed at the time. Yeah. What about you?
Um, I was stoked to, have another woman doing so great at challenges and joining the ranks of like the elite ladies who win lots of challenges. Um, and I thought that honestly, she did need immunity every time she won or she was going home. And, had Sage or somebody else been able to pull off eliminating her in one of the times where she didn't win immunity, that really would have been a big feather in their cap for like why they deserve to win $1 million because Sophie, the other Sophie who was on the jury, did really well at challenges. There was a dude who did good at challenges, but neither one of them had 3 before Savannah had 3. So at this point, we know that Savannah, who won, and Rizzo, who went out 4th, are gonna be on Survivor season 50 in the spring, which I thought I could be a fun, like, duo action situation if they did choose, like, that their potential to work together might come to their equal advantage in the way that being unknowns gave them a disadvantage. And so I thought that that was kinda
Yeah.
cool, but also, if you look at those final 4, I would have been thrilled to see Sage in 50 and, like, yeah, to see her play again, which, she's very good friends with my hairstylist, and so I felt personally invested in her journey once I learned that. Um,
Also liked the guy who worked on Capitol Hill as a comms director. His name is escaping me right
I
now.
did, I was just
But
worried
he was
he's a
on the
Republican.
Is he?
No, well, I don't know, but I was just worried, it was just, like, the vibe that I got, and I was like, "I really hope you're not."
Okay, so now I'm gonna have to do like a Wikipedia rabbit hole.
Let me know what you find out.
I'll text you later because I'll probably do it like as soon as we get home.
But he was funny, and he was a good sport about getting voted out when he was playing in the middle, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
I thought we had some good twosomes. Like Jawan and Sage were also like a good twosome for a minute. Like in terms of working together, I thought, and he was such an awkward turtle. Here's my thing about Jawan. I don't think I could have played a game with him and not personally have been responsible for murder. You put some leaves in my bag on my clean clothes. I think you're not coming back from Fiji, bro. Um, Or your bag is mine now. Congratulations. And you're washing all my clothes. And those are the consequences of your actions. So we would not have been friends. But on the TV, I could humor him. You know, it's like, it's not intentional. He's a neurodivergent doofus. Like,
He reminded me of so many of my friends that are like slightly aloof, but also strategic. If that makes it like they come across as a little aloof,
uh-huh.
but like deep down and like right before tribals or like right before, yeah, like you could see like how strategic they were.
Mhm.
But like before, like the 10 minutes before tribal, they were just kind of like,
Uh-huh.
whereas Sage, I felt like was always on it,
Mhm.
always thinking strategy. Maybe she peaked a little early, but like, you know,
But she was so
I felt
funny. She also made great television, which was very enjoyable, I thought. I mean, I also like Rizzo makes good television, and I think that like Savannah is also very capable in that department. So I think they will be good people in the mix. I would have loved, I just jumping ahead to season 50 to see Kinsey come back for 50 because I think she's great. From Charlotte, who won in like 45, I think. Redhead tattoo,
thank
very
you.
cute. Um, but I mean, because she's somebody I have a parasocial relationship with, and like she's pregnant with her second baby, living her best life in her new house. So like she's got it good and has no need or desire to be on Survivor again. But she was really entertaining to watch. And that's the hair salon I used to go to when I lived on that side of the state was her salon in Camp North End. So, so I was like also really invested when she played.
We could have loved that. I mean, for season 50, I want like unhinged nostalgia.
Uh-huh.
I want people playing advantages and that haven't been a thing for like a decade. And I want like the old school players being like, wait, what's a shot in the dark? While like Rizzo has to explain it like
Mhm.
tech support. Like I want it. But I also think like the I think it'll be very interesting how people show.
Mhm.
Very interesting. Because I also like I know that when they've done kind of like seasons when like people come back, it's kind of awkward in the sense of like, do people know that Savannah just won?
So it will not have aired. They will go into filming. Like they film 2 seasons at a time. I listened to the
Yeah.
Survivor podcast and so I feel like there's like a whole
Mm.
little back road there, but no, I am like 90% certain that they will be filming and they will have that it will be up to Savannah and Rizzo to like tell them about where they were in their show and why that was good enough for them to be on.
Wow. I wonder if they're gonna lie.
But then if you lied and like downplayed yourself, well then why would you be picked? So
Valid.
but I'm
True.
hoping that we see the return of the family visit for this one, which was like, you know, really a guaranteed tearjerker for every season that it was on. And like the letters are cute, the sanctuary is cute, but like in season 50, in season 40, they brought everybody's family out and like gave everybody a family day. And I'm not saying they should do exactly that, but I really think they should like bring people out again to do a family day.
I also think like personal opinion, I think everyone should get their letters.
Mm.
If they're gonna do letter, I think that everyone should get them.
So, fun fact, they get them
But
at Ponderosa if you didn't get them. They're waiting for you.
that's amazing. I assumed that that happened, but like actually knowing, oh, I love that so much. What do you what do you think kind of makes like a good returnee season?
Ooh. I think a good diversity balance is like really a present factor there. And I mean in age, in ability, in race, in sexuality, like a breadth and depth of people, of a variety of people, like, can make the shows really interesting. I also think, like, having one, like, really great storyteller can make a really good like, Mike White's on this season again, of White Lotus, and so, like, we're gonna get a good commentary when he's doing his little confessionals because he's a great fucking storyteller. So that'll be cool.
I think, like, I want there to be, like, at least one person who you should not trust at all, but everyone does anyway.
Mhm.
Kinda like OG Boston Rob.
Uh-huh.
Like, no one should have trusted,
No, who's, like,
just based on,
controlling
like,
who
the
everybody
person.
talks to? What are you talking about? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and so but then I also want, like, I want a little bit of chaos because, um 'cause it makes good TV, I'm not gonna lie. But I want it, like, if no one says, "I can't believe I fell for that again," why are we even having returnees come back? Like, why? Um, I do wanna touch on something that you just said, and I promise I'll keep it fast. But, like, the whole, like, MC vote on episode 8, and this is something that, like, you and I have, like, very briefly talked about. I think it was either in person or via text or something. Um On episode 8, MC was trying to prevent 2 consecutive Black contestants from being voted out,
Mhm.
and so that's when, like, kind of the chaos happened at Tribal, but it was because and I found this out kinda, like, after, is because she kept seeing this trend of more and more Black contestants and people of color, particularly, like, women of color,
Mhm.
being voted out, like, as soon as it gets to, like, the merge.
Mhm.
Um and that is something that I'm like, I'd started to notice it the past couple seasons, but I didn't really like start going onto Reddit and like start doing
But if
like
you
deep
start looking
dives
at the
after
numbers,
like,
it's crazy. It's a crazy, like, skewing of our clearly brown and black
yeah,
players getting voted out, like, in quick succession.
it like, and that was one of the things that like you probably saw me like make a face when he said the name Juwan because I was like, oh, he was tied to that MC thing, but it was like because he knew why she was trying to change the vote.
Yeah.
His and so that's why I was just kind of like, "Oh, oh." But, like, I I think that that is something, like, that needs to be brought up,
Mhm.
and I don't think that it's, like, Jeff's job to bring it up, but I do think that it's something that, like I think that it should be talked about on season 50
Mhm.
because the production is gonna edit how they're gonna edit. They'll probably edit it out, but, like, I think that it would be a great conversation to have, like, "Hey, we need to be voting people out. And whether you think so or not, you are seeing black contestant after black contestant after black contestant
Being
being voted
12
out
and
after a
10 and
merge.
9 12 and 11 and 10 and 9 and 8, and then all of a sudden I mean, I feel like it is we should note that in 49, we had 3 women, 2 of whom are women of color in the final, but
Yep.
those 2 women of color fairly white passing in their presentation on TV to me and to I think a lot of folks, and so we get into some privilege discussion there when we think about who makes it through and who doesn't.
Yeah. And I think that that's like, it's almost like, oh, when we were separate tribes, it made me think like, oh, these black contestants were used for their individual tribes to get them to the merge. And then after that, we don't need them because it's an individual
And then
family.
we've clumped up based on, our other perceived shared identities. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. You and I could probably talk about that for like 2 hours, but
So really, it's really valid, and I don't know how this show, like, can account for that. Like, I do think it is a sticky thing, but there should be some discussion because it is clearly a pattern, that I have seen in the last, at least 5 years, so 10 seasons of Survivor.
And I didn't even get into Survivor until, like, COVID had started. I just finished watching Tiger King, like, the riveting show on Netflix, and I, like, texted a group chat of, like, some coworkers, and I was like, "Hey, what's something that I could binge watch that has a lot of, like,
Mhm,
seasons?" And my friend who I knew was a Survivor, like, super fan, was like, "You just started Survivor, start at season, like, 5 and work your way up." And then she would, like, tell me, like, which seasons to, like, skip and,
mhm,
whatever. There are a few seasons that I'm just like, "Ugh, that was boring." Um, but because I watched them so, like, rapidly, like, back to back to back, because
mhm,
like, as you remember in the beginning of COVID, it's like, you're not going anywhere. Like, you're working from home, so you can, like, be playing something on your, like, laptop while you're working on your other laptop, which is what I did.
mhm,
And so I'm watching them very fast, and so when you watch it that fast, like, you notice that stuff,
mhm,
and it becomes very
mhm,
like, the racial disparities, like, very apparent. And then I didn't even start to dig into it until, like, I noticed it last season of, like, "Oh, there's been a few seasons of, like, um, and then I started really digging into it at the beginning of this season
mhm,
because I was like, "I wonder if it's gonna happen again," or, like, if there's gonna be,
mhm,
like a mechanism to, you know, which I don't know what they would implement, but whatever. Um, and then I started going down Reddit threads, like, the day after I watch it,
mhm,
and I'd be like, "Okay, other people say it too." Like, I'm not wild. I'm not, like, overthinking this at all. This is, like, something that, like, is very apparent to a lot of
mhm.
fans, which is good, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's a clear pattern, and we should notice those things.
Mhm.
You would think. Yeah.
I hate
Um, okay, so do you have any, like, non-political wish list items on your 2026 wish list?
Yes. So I have an IOU from my husband to do the Empire Builder on Amtrak. So it goes from, or the line that we would do would be Chicago to Portland,
Mhm,
Oregon. And so, like, my goal is to put my itinerary in place for that because we want to stop, like, in Idaho, maybe Montana, maybe South Dakota, North Dakota, I forget which of the Dakotas it goes into, and, like, enjoy ourselves for a night or 2 in, like, a small town or a national park, and then hop back on. So that's kind of, like, my wish list is to, like, get my itinerary in place, so then, like, post-election, I can go hang out on an Amtrak train, and, like, that can be my, like, post-election chill 2 weeks, because 'cause I'm definitely taking time off after the election.
I like that. That sounds like a good time and, like, a good call to take a vacation after the election. After 2016, I went to London for, like, 9 days, and I haven't done anything like that, like, since, but, like, God, that was the right plan.
I fully endorse going to London. Love London.
Um,
What about you? What's your non-political wish list item?
I am really hoping that my first book manuscript, a poetry collection called On the Eve of the End of the World, gets picked up for publication. It's out at a couple of contests. It's been rejected from a couple of contests already this year. So I would love if it got picked up and, like, got published next year. Yeah, so we'll see.
My fingers are crossed. That'd be so exciting. Oh my gosh.
It would be pretty cool.
How much
Cool.
poetry do you write?
Would love to have more of a regular practice than I do right now. I would say that poetry is something that often gets shoved to the side as my political life takes up more and more space in my life. I mean, it's also like I don't really feel like I could have a writing life and not be an activist because it just feels incredibly selfish to write about the flowers and the trees when people are dying. And so being able to be an active participant in trying to make positive change also helps me, like, be able to make time to write when I do write. A lot of times in the winter, I'll get together like weekly or semi-weekly over Zoom with some girlfriends and like write for an hour on Sundays or stuff. So it ebbs and flows. It ebbs and flows, but then I look back and I have maybe 20 good poems a year um these days. So it's not terrible, it's not prolific, it's somewhere in the middle.
I love that. I wish I had like that sort of thing. Cause like I feel like a lot of my like professional work is like kind of creative and like, but I don't have like one thing that's like creative. So that's awesome.
Is that what's stopping you? You can totally pick it up, you know?
I know. I think I want to do cross stitch though. My mom used to make like Christmas ornaments and like pillows and all these sort of things. And so I think I want to like pick up some of her projects
Mhm.
that she was like hasn't been able to finish because she has like horrible arthritis. And so actually I did ask for that for Christmas is like some of my mom's unfinished project. Did not get I'm gonna have to talk to my parents about that. But I think that is kind of what I want to do. I like being able to have something to hold.
Uh-huh.
So maybe that'll be instead of my like Monopoly Go game that I started playing a lot of, that I can do cross stitch
That
because I think that'd be fun.
that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I've like tried to pick up like needlepoint or embroidery before. I cross stitched when I was like a kid. But I'm really in love with like nails, like press on nails, and it's really hard to I haven't figured out needles and nails so much yet.
Yeah, because you like yours long.
Yeah, I'm like a medium almond or a long almond usually.
Whereas I try to keep mine like just just
Just over.
over like the
Uh-huh.
like I don't want them too short, but I also don't want them like too long.
So you're like very
Just over.
practical in your length. It's like a really nice aesthetic, but it's also like you can type with your normal posture and it is good. Yeah.
Yeah. No. What is one thing that like you want to hold better? One boundary you were to hold here?
I think like the idea of office hours. I really like your in your email signature about how like you work non-traditional hours, but please don't respond to me outside of your own working hours. And I like took that and put something similar in my email, but like more than that, like I'd really love to be like, all right, like 9 to 8:30, cool. But like past 9 p.m., I don't want to hear it. I don't want you to text me. If you do text me, I'm getting to you tomorrow.
I will say, so that actually came from having like when I was at the Sierra Club and we worked with people on the East Coast and West Coast. And so like it was so weird like getting emails at like mid and I'd be like, why the hell did I send this at midnight? And then I'd be like, oh wait, they live on the West Coast. And then, like when my manager was moving to the East Coast, like right like 2 or 3 years before I left this year club, she was moving. And so like her body was still on West Coast time. And she had put something like a little similar in like her email signature. And I was like, you know what? There are times when I wake up at 6:30 in the morning and I might send emails. And there are also times when I'll be like, oh my God, I didn't respond to that one email that like actually is urgent. And I'll think about it at like midnight when I can't go to sleep and
Mhm.
I'll answer it right away. And so that's where I think like having that is. It's been helpful and 1,000% agree with office hours because I'm also someone like who I have this like this link where people can just sign up for like 30 minutes on my
Mhm.
calendar that anytime that someone emails me and they're like, hey, can we do blah, blah, blah? I'm like, hey, here's my calendar, put some time on it. And I'm like very transparent on my calendar of like what my working hours are, Like I will, if I have a doctor's appointment,
Yeah. No, I
with
mean,
that.
I think I like that. And like honestly, if I were to take it a step further, it would be like, oh, that I actually only work 6 days a week and that I take a day on the weekend to like truly not do political stuff. But like I don't feel like that's reasonable in an even year when there's so much shit going on, when like sometimes we need both days of the weekend. And so yeah, so the like office hours just to like give myself an off the hook, like an under, I know I'm under no obligation and they can wait because yeah, like you, like a lot of days I start my email at like 7:15 and I'm like getting in there early, but like man, come 9 o'clock. I don't want to deal with your shit.
I do want to get better and about like turning off like Signal and WhatsApp like notification. The problem is that I don't want to mute some chat.
Uh-huh. Oh, girl, yeah, I don't mute the chats, but I have no Signal notifications come through unless my phone is unlocked. If my phone is unlocked or if I'm like plugged in on a podcast, I get them. But like if my phone is locked, I don't see. And I had to like, and I don't know whether that would work for you because like work, but like for me, that is what has worked for me. Is just like nah, I open it when I go and check my social media accounts. I go check Signal and see what else is going on.
That's my, I need to try that for like, because I do have to like take some like personal time off when my husband is having surgery. So I might do it then.
Mhm.
Granted, it's only for like a week, but like I might try it then because I know people are still gonna be like messed.
Mhm.
So anyway,
Good vibes. I hope that goes well. I know that's like scary, even if it's a minor thing.
but I think that also ties into like what I want more joy around, which is being my body and being thankful for it.
Mhm.
Of just like I want to move I have been moving my body more and like being goofy and like dancing to a song every once in a while. And like when I say dancing, I mean like the like, oh, I might be embarrassed if someone besides like my dog do this. But also just being thankful that I can move my body and feeling unashamed that I'm dancing to like 90s NSYNC track. Or no, I guess NSYNC. Yeah, NSYNC would have been like 90s, early 2000s. Like I'm thankful for being I want to be more thankful for like being able to move my
I completely am on board with that. I know you know that I have like had a saga of ankle leg issues this year, this in 2025, and like I am definitely holding on to in 2026 a gratitude that like I could take a walk around my neighborhood. And that I am like I walked from the office to this little bakery today that's like half a block away and like didn't need to use a cane and it was great.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, but thank you. Thank you for having me on. This was so much fun.
I'm so glad you came. Thank you for doing this with me. Thank you for being such a cool helper and a cool partner, and a cool friend that I've gotten to know some in 2025 and hope to get to know more in 2026. Um, we know we'll link Carolina forward in the show notes. Is there anything you want to tell folks before you sign off?
Um, have fun. Sometimes you need to be snarky and sassy, but always try to lead with kindness. Um, and that doesn't always mean niceness, but you know, always try to lead with kindness. And that's what I try to do both like personally and professionally. And I wish that more people did. So, thank you again for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you. All right. I'm gonna pause this. Don't leave yet. Because I really love conversations like this because they remind me that politics is not just about fear. It's about imagination. And I'm so glad Rebekah was able to come on and co-host this episode, and also for helping us hold the long view in mind as we really stare down the barrel of another year. To everyone who's listening, 2026 isn't just coming, it is already being built, and what we do now really does matter. We're going to be back soon. Until then, take care of each other, stay curious, and keep lighting the small sparks. We are who we're waiting for, dispatchers. Don't forget that. Until next time, Happy New Year. Now go get in some good trouble. I also wanted to, take a moment and think about how when we started the Foxfire Dispatch, I was not really trying to build a brand, but more of a place to think out loud, honestly and carefully, um, and with other people who take North Carolina seriously. Recording these 2 episodes with Rebekah reminded me about why that matters. Episode 6 was about structure and the quiet work of building power, the long view, the kind of leadership that doesn't always get applause. This episode was about imagination, what we can hope for and what we want to protect and what we refuse to give up on, even when the path forward feels uncertain. 2026 is a year that holds a lot of momentum and choice at the same time. We've got big systems that are already in motion, but there's real agency on the table for people. And we have the sense that things are turning and the responsibility to decide how we respond to the turning of this year. And here's something that I just keep coming back to. Hope is not just vibes, it is work. It is the choice to care about judicial races, even if they're confusing. It's the choice to care about judicial races, even when they're confusing. It's the choice to talk honestly about leadership transitions instead of pretending that continuity is just going to take care of itself. It's the choice to invest in infrastructure and relationships and storytelling when the dopamine hit of a viral moment could be easier. Talking through 2026, our wish list, our fears, our expectations, it wasn't about forecasting outcomes, and it was about responsibility. It's about recognizing that while we don't control the wheel of history, we do control what tools we pick up, who we stand next to, um, who we stand next to, and what risks we're willing to take without guarantees. The future doesn't just arrive, it is shaped by those who show up early, who stay curious, and who refuse to let cynicism be the smartest voice in the room. And yes, in this episode, we talked about Survivor because culture matters and because coalition building, trust, betrayal, patience, and timing all show up there too. And because sometimes it helps to look at power sideways in order to understand it straight on. What I'm sitting with now is gratitude and resolve. Gratitude for people like Rebekah, who do the unglamorous work, who understand systems and still make room for joy, imagination, and courage. Resolve to keep making this podcast a space where politics isn't flattened into outrage or emptied of meaning. If you're listening and you feel tired, skeptical, or unsure of where you fit into what comes next, this is your reminder that you don't have to do everything, but you do have to choose something. Choose how you step forward. Choose what you're willing to risk using what you already have. Small sparks still matter. They always have. We will keep lighting them here. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Foxfire Dispatch. If today's discussion lit a spark, help us fan the flame. Share this episode, send us your stories, and subscribe wherever you listen. We would be especially thrilled if you would subscribe on YouTube. We put out episodes on Fridays, and you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and Blue Sky at the Foxfire Dispatch, or on TikTok and Twitter at Foxfire Dispatch. Our music is produced by John Fitz, and the show is written and executive produced by me, Liz Purvis. Once again, get in some good trouble.